Look, I can't help but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice. Please,
Oh,
do not
there is
know.
never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
It's bubbling, baby. Warm water. Warm water.
Time for your favorite part of your Saturday. Mike Tipton, Brandon the Iceman Cohn. We are coming to you live from Union Drafthouse, 12,040 Tierra Este 12040. I remembered the address this time. Look at me being somewhat of a professional. They've got the CiderDay, so $4 ciders. They've got the $2 build your own pizza. They've got all kinds of shot specials. Ask your waitress, ask the staff here about those shot specials. And Brandon, they've got something really cool coming up on the 16th. They've got an Oktoberfest that's happening in September, because I guess that's when the traditional Oktoberfest happens.
Not in October.
On the 16th, and they're going to have a Stein hoisting competition and all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what they're doing here at Union Drafthouse. I'll be here on the 16th. I hope you're here as well.
I like Steins. I like Goldsteins. Lowenbergs, whatever. Oy vey. No, the other Jew in the room laughs. That's it. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward. I'm glad I got a good giggle out of you. The Stein contest is going to be fun. Who doesn't love Oktoberfest, especially my pal here who enjoys his, beverage here and there. And yes, it's here. I mean, we're here in September 2nd already. Isn't it the 2nd, right?
It's been flying by.
Unbelievable. I mean, August just went by like that, huh?
Yeah, it did.
Back.
But the best part about it, Brandon, is along with September, along with the calendar change, this time of year, it's fall is upon us, or what we consider fall in El Paso when the temperatures drop to 92.
Yeah, 90 in the shade. It's still 100 this weekend. Very nice thing. Welcome September.
But we've got a little thing that we're going to try to do every week whenever we're doing this here, giving a little bit of love to the local high schools here. Brandon, you got some scores for us. Let us know some of the scores.
Yeah, definitely. So in a great game at Lowenberg Stadium, KUTO defeats Coronado 21-19. It was also Franklin 50-8 over Andress, Riverside 52-45, and a good one over Burgess. Eastlake 35-7 over Rio Rancho. And the game that I covered, which was the game of the week, it was Pebble Hills at Del Valle. Pebble, Ochoa, the commit for UTEP, 33-6 over Del Valle. Las Cruces and Eastwood. How about Eastwood, 55-28 over the Bulldogs? El Paso High and Hanks won 37-20. Irvin in a very close game, 10-3 final over Jeff. We also had the Central defeat Mountwood 35-33. El Dorado and Chapin, the Huskies win that one 34-17, rebound from the loss at Coronado last week. And the Parkland defeats Austin. My Panthers are 0-2, oy vey, this year. Parkland 42-10 over Austin. And finally, your Socorro Bulldogs unfortunately lose at it's like the second home of Scotland. They have the Celt there at Bel Air. Bel Air, the Highlanders win 61-7. A couple of things that stand out for me. The game of the week, the one that I covered, Pebble Hills, Ochoa, the commit for UTEP. This was a 5-0 baseball score at half, literally. And then the second half, Ochoa comes alive, 3 touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground. And, of course, Del Valle, they were playing with a backup QB. No answer, unfortunately. How about Coronado, my alma mater? They lose by a couple at KUTO, who's 1-1 on the year. Very tough place to play on that Smurf turf. But I will say that I think Coronado with their quarterback, Levesque, he had a great week, 2 weeks in a row. He could do it on the ground. He could do it through the air. Joe Golding's kid plays for them. Randag, they have a slew of talent there, Coronado. To me, they're a dark horse in 1-6A this year. They're for real. Franklin, Franklin's Franklin. They beat Centennial last week. Now they go to Andress. They tear up Andress, a new one there, 50-8. They're for real as usual. Riverside, I like that score. Anything else that really stands out to me? I think, look, at this point, it's so early. Austin 0-2. Panther fans, don't worry yet. Well, then again, worry you at KUTO next week. But, they missed Jaden Wilson, who's playing at A&M today for New Mexico. That's hurting. And, of course, Chapin, 34-17, big win at Dorado. They get that bounce-back win. That's what kind of stands out for me week 2.
So it's nice to see, all the action that's going on. Like you said, it's a little early, but the one thing about football, high school football, college football, NFL, every week, super important.
Sure.
So it's going to be awesome to see how some of these teams bounce back. Socorro, though, I'm glad to see they put up a little bit of a fight, only losing 61-7. I mean, it was a real close game.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they were that they were able to, just make it respectable.
Yeah, I mean, look, you scored a touchdown. You didn't get blown out completely. Well, you did get blown out, but at least you didn't get shut out. So your team's certainly in the mix. Irvin, a 10-3 score over La Jeff. That was an interesting game. Eastwood's really good as usual under Coach Lopez, as putting up 55 over the Las Cruces Bulldogs. Those Las Cruces teams are always really good. And district play does start for some teams next week already. Here's the bottom line. Obviously, these non-district games, you should be playing a tough non-district schedule to get you ready for your district campaign, because in the end, all that matters is how you perform in district. That will, determine whether or not you make the postseason.
Yeah, and
that's it.
Better competition leads to more.
You shouldn't be playing cupcakes in non-district, because it's not going to do anything for your squad.
Exactly. Speaking of cupcakes, the UTEP Miners are going to be in action a little bit later on today.
That was a good one. You really do bounce off me well.
Okay, let elephant in the room.
They are who we thought. They don't call me an elephant. They are who They are who we thought they were. I've been called an elephant before, but not by you. Anyways.
So UTEP goes on the road. They play against Jackson State last year. Jacksonville State, for the first time ever, they're playing their FCS or FBS competition. They've moved on up from what was Division II now to Division I. They have their first ever competition in Conference USA, because now they're new to the conference here. And it seemed like a dominant performance by them. The score wouldn't indicate that. It was 17-14, UTEP losing. Sure. But UTEP obviously outgains them in the air. Jacksonville State, not a pass-heavy team. UTEP respectable in the running game, averaged 5 yards a carry in the second half. But it came down to turnovers, where UTEP had 3 to their 1. And then UTEP, for whatever reason, on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, inexplicably, while averaging 5 yards a carry in the second half, along with having a running back the size of Deion Hankins who squats 600 pounds, you don't hand him the ball and you throw fade routes? What in the hell was going on with that?
Well, I'm going to say it. They're pathetic. I'm sorry. They're sloppy. Sloppy teams lose games. They don't find a way to win games. They find a way to lose games. And the point here is that poor coaching decisions. It starts with the head coach. And I love Dan Dimmel. He's been on our show. He's a good man. But you've got to make better decisions. If you're going to gamble, at least have a good gamble. It's one thing to do it on 3rd down, but then 4th down, it's just ridiculous. And you're not throwing little out routes. You're not throwing little curl routes. You're throwing down the field. I don't think Hardison, again, I've said this before, I don't think he's all that great. I mean, he's got his moments, but long story short is when you don't take advantage of a dominant running back who's having a good game, and you lose at a place that you have no business losing, because they pretty much are a Division II team. I mean, they've just barely got into D1, and you only put up 14 points against them. I mean, it's the stat sheet in the end doesn't determine the outcome. Just a bad decision overall. I'm sorry.
Having a coach like Rich Rodriguez in Jacksonville State really does kind of help out with them as far as recruiting goes. He has that, quick hurry-up offense, that quick tempo. So it was nice to see UTEP's defense was able to hold them to only 17 points. Yeah. But now they're going to be taking on, I would just want to give a quick happy birthday to Steven Metaludas. Happy birthday, my dude. Congrats on now UTEP's going to take on Incarnate Word.
Yeah.
This isn't like the Incarnate Word of a couple of years ago where they couldn't move the ball. This is a team that's coming off being the top-performing offense in the FCS, a 12-win season last year. Yes, they lost their coach. Yes, they lost a couple of key players. But now they have a quarterback who used to lead Texas A&M and actually got them to a bowl game in 2021. As the guy there, they have another guy that's dominated UTEP before in the past, their new running back that they've got. And it's just – it doesn't seem like if UTEP performs the way that they did last week that they're going to start the season the way that we thought they would, which would be, like a 2-2 split. Mm-hmm. If UTEP loses this game to Incarnate Word, there's a real possibility they start off 0-4 and all of the bowl game hype is gone.
Well, they will start off 0-4. I can assure you of that.
You don't think they're going to beat Incarnate Word?
I mean, I feel that what I was about to say is that if they don't win today, they're gonna go start out because you're not going to win at Northwestern and you're not going to win against U of A. I mean, I hope they beat Incarnate Word, but I can assure you if they don't play better than they did last week, they will lose. And we've seen them lose to what you would call lesser opponents in the past, a la Stony Brook years ago in the Sun Bowl. This kind of a win, it does one of two things. It either motivates you to go whoop your opponent's ass the next week, or, it's like going to be a consistent trend where everybody was picking this team to win 6, 7, 8 games, and all of a sudden they come out of the gate and completely disappoint you and dishearten you, which is what they normally do. Should they beat Incarnate Word? Maybe. I mean, Incarnate Word has got some good talents. And I mean, look, Are they going to be a different team at home? I sure hope so. I mean, but if they don't win, they will start off 0-4. And that, talk about a buzzkill, huh?
Going over a little bit of the stats from last week, UTEP, like I said, they outplayed Jacksonville State. Hardison, 208 yards through the air, 58.6% completion percentage. Actually had it up over 70% in the first half. One tutty, but those two big interceptions. Torrance Burgess leading the way on the ground, 58 yards, 12 carries. Our guy Deion Hankins, 15 carries, 54 yards and a touchdown. Just looking at UTEP, like offensively, right? This is a team, if you have Immaculate Word, or Incarnate Word, who wants to, move the ball fast, move it up and down the field. UTEP has to play immaculate football. That's where I was going with, and hold the ball and just have that possession type offense, right? Where they just don't allow this team to move up and down the field the way that they're probably going to be able to, despite the fact that UTEP should have a pretty decent defense.
Got a question for you.
Yes.
What's up?
Would it help if the quarterback wore a helmet with a radio and Dana Dimmel could instruct him from the sideline?
Well,
They kind of do.
smoke signals help nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, it would help if he made some better calls. That's what it would help. I mean,
Okay,
that's,
so let me get on this. Okay, like I kind of like the call, man. Like you're going for the win, you're not playing for the tie. I like that, but I also believe on 3rd and 1, maybe you run the ball. If you don't get the first down, you had a timeout.
Yeah.
Didn't
they have 2?
Yeah,
So,
it's not like
there was
you
a
had
minute.
to.
There wasn't
Yeah.
10 seconds left. There was a minute.
Yeah.
So you can still play to win the game in a more logical sense.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't his first rodeo. The dude's been a head coach for a long time, and he's had some good programs.
But I mean, that's
that's
the complaint that like all the UTEP fans give out all the time is, we're not ever going for the win. We're always settling for
because
this.
he had cotton balls.
He was going for the win.
Yeah, was he though? I mean, yes, he was in retrospect.
Let's face it.
But there's a stupid way and a smart way to go for a win, man. That was a stupid way.
I like stupid ways, though.
I know you do. Hence the reason the way you are. But I mean,
Wow.
sorry.
That was mean.
That was bad. I'm sorry. I still love you. You'll get me back. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Isn't there like such as smart and dumb football? And that was
Yeah.
just dumb football. I mean,
And then there's
isn't there-
there's George Costanza football, do exactly the opposite of what they expect.
well, yeah, but like twice in a row, really?
But-
Not once is fine, but not twice, man.
But let's look at it this way. On that first one, on the 3rd and 1, that fade route, it's in the receiver's hands. He just drops it, right? That's just bad luck on that. Let's look at the things that happened to UTEP here. Early on in the game, the first score of the game would have been a 49-yard touchdown pass.
That was rough.
And it like obviously the receiver drops it. I'm gonna mess up his name. I know it's Akari, but I don't feel like it's Akari because it's not spelled that way.
Sure.
So in my head, I want to call him like Arakari, but I don't think that's the right way of saying it. But Kelly Akari, like he had the ball in his hands twice and dropped touchdowns.
Yeah.
These are things that both those are caught. We're talking about a completely different game here because that's a dominating performance by UTEP.
Sure.
But once again, if is not the world that we live in, we live in what is. And what is right now is UTEP is 0-1, losing to Jacksonville State.
Yeah, and Hardison, pulled his Hardisons. I mean, he had a guy open in the end zone and threw it out of bounds. He
That
caught
sounded
it.
dirty.
Huh?
That sounded dirty. Hardison pulled a Hardison.
He did pull a Hardison. He pulled a usual. He did what he normally does, and that's unfortunately goof when it's on the line. I mean, he's a decent quarterback, but that's all I'll give him is the word decent. That's it.
Want to give a shout out to friend of the show, Tyrese Knight. He had 13 tackles for UTEP as well. Like defensively, I was impressed by what UTEP was able to do because it felt like it was going to get out of hand really early, really quick.
Yes.
I want to see that type of performance against Incarnate Word, but I don't know if we're going to get that type of performance from UTEP. What do you want to see UTEP do in this game? What does UTEP have to win by in order for you to say, you know what, maybe we got a shot at a bowl?
They just need to win. I mean,
That's all you want, just to win?
I'm not looking for a blowout. I mean, it's always nice to see a competitive game. I'm looking for them to play those 4 quarters. I'm looking for them to continue to utilize Deion Hankins and for him have possibly a monster season. I'm looking for a more, a responsible game from Hardison and, of course, their defense to step up and ultimately for there to just be better plays called. I mean, if they can do all of those things, which I may be asking a lot, then then I'm going to be a happy fan. You know what I mean? Or a happy camper. Whatever.
Looking at what UTEP has ahead of them right now in Incarnate Word, once again, top scoring offense in the FCS last year, a 12-win season. They've got a new quarterback. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, Zach Calzada from Texas A&M. Whenever he was at Texas A&M, 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns, and actually had -9 rushing yards, which is kind of weird to think of whenever you see what's happening with that right there. -9 rushing yards, on 35 carries and a long of 25 yards.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I
Let's
hear
pay
you.
attention to the show.
I'm listening to you. I'm sorry, I just saw a pretty poodle over here,
Jesus.
I'm listening to you.
What did I say?
You were talking about the statistics. A long of negative so yards.
So 35 carries for a total of -9 rushing yards and somehow a touchdown. So this isn't a quarterback that's going to run is what I'm trying to say, right? There's going to be a passing quarterback.
Yeah, definitely.
UTEP can drop back, make sure that this guy, because he's not going to beat you on the with his feet, make them a one-dimensional offense. And that's how I think UTEP's going to be able to do this, especially with ball control.
Well, I mean, and the thing is that we know that UTEP can control the tempo of the game, but again, it doesn't always equal to a win, unfortunately, because of how you handle things
last
at the end. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if they can control the tempo, if they can take care of business defensively, and that's the thing. To me, it's going to be easier said than done against Incarnate Ward, just because of how their offense was stellar last year. I mean, even if you are an FCS team, that's not exactly the easiest team to play against and to be victorious against because you are UTEP. I mean, you're not a premier program, unfortunately.
Surprises going on right now in the world of college football. Colorado, I don't know why I didn't expect this from Colorado, but, new coach Dion got rid of a lot of players. Somehow has a lead on TCU 24-14 right now from what I was told. I'm not 100% sure if that's the actual fact or not, but if that is the case, I was expecting Colorado to get absolutely blown out by this because TCU is a really damn good team. I just I'm not sure what to expect from Colorado with a new coach and, again, all the player turnover. You cannot survive this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is Dion. It's prime time. That's the thing is that what kind of an instant situation is he going to do? I mean, he's laying down the law, so he could have a great program at Colorado.
If you bet Oklahoma covering the spread of 39.5 points, you're feeling pretty good right now.
Yeah, you're in good shape. You're in good shape. 51-0 right now with 9:46 to go in the third quarter.
I think that's what makes gambling on this time of the year so difficult is because you have all the cupcake games, right?
Yeah.
And none of these games should be close. Like A&M should dominate New Mexico.
Absolutely.
Michigan, as we're seeing right now, dominating as well. None of these games should be close at all. And somehow, some way, UTEP found a way to lose their very first game against what should have been their cupcake.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are the kind of wins you can't let go because those are the games that get you bowl eligible.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the games that you can't lose cupcake and gimmies. That's an unacceptable situation.
And that's also the thing with UTEP, right? It's not like Conference USA is full of powerhouse football teams.
Right.
So maybe they can catch lightning in a bottle and get to a bowl game, but you got to win these out of conference games. What about last week, New Mexico State quarterback getting his helmet ripped around on his head and still throwing the no-look pass?
I love it. I think that's great. That's why you love football.
Wouldn't it have been great if it was complete, though?
Absolutely.
But
that would have made it even better.
Yeah, for a touchdown or something. It says just a dude throwing the ball
That would
away.
have made a SportsCenter highlight.
It did.
Yeah.
Somehow, some way, even though there's an incomplete pass.
Well, because
look at this at SportsCenter top 10.
Because he still got the pass off.
Would you have just fallen down? What would you do if your helmet's ripped around? You're the quarterback with the ball right now. You're looking downfield. They obviously egregious face mask.
Yeah.
I'd call the ump and say, flag!
Yeah, I'd probably go with
I have to look back on that. I don't even know if they threw a flag on that.
I mean, unless they completely missed it 100%, right?
Have we not seen referees miss things
all the
100%?
time. I was looking down at my watch.
I was trying to see what time this game was going to be over
I
at.
was wondering.
Things that prompt AAA to have the ABS system in baseball.
There we go. All right, so looking at UTEP once again, here at home against Incarnate Word, they're a 6.5 point favorite with an over/under of 57.5. What are you taking on there, Brandon? What part of that looks enticing to you?
Well, I mean, maybe the over, not the 6.5 favorite though, because if they do win, Incarnate Ward's going to put up some games.
I can't see this.
Incarnate Ward's going to put up some points. I just though I'm not about the points though. Like them 6.5, that's a lot.
I think UTEP could win by a touchdown.
I say that if they win, they win by 3.
Okay.
Or at the very least, the next time they lose, Dana Dimelo should invite them into a state-of-the-art theater and say, it's film time.
I would hope that he's already doing all that, but let's see. So I'm the opposite of you. I think I'm going to take the points from UTEP. I think they can win by a touchdown at a minimum, but I don't know if they're going to get the over on that. 57.5 points, that's 28, 29 points each. I can't see.
For all we know,
UTEP
Ward
scoring
scores
like
all
that.
the points.
Yeah,
but their defense did play better.
Yeah, so that's what I'm looking at right there. I'm glad that I didn't put the TCU blowing out Colorado by 21 points. I thought that might be a thing.
I'm looking at the score right now. I'm trying to figure it out here. I'm looking here.
All right.
Because they have this game on.
So once again, we're over here at Union Drafthouse. Mike Tipton, Brandon, the Iceman Cone for Fire and Ice. We are enjoying, or at least a little bit later, we're going to be enjoying the $4 ciders. We got the $2 build your own pizzas. The address is 12040 Tierra Este in the far east side of El Paso. Finally, a little close to home for me. It's a little drive for you guys. I apologize, but it's all right.
About a little bit.
I got to drive all the way over there, guy.
Thank you. I enjoy that.
All right, so what I wanted to talk about as well, keeping it with the college football theme here, Brandon, is the realignment that we've seen. Over the last couple of years, we saw Texas and OU kind of throw a wrench into everything whenever they decided to go to the SEC. Now we've just seen kind of realignment all over the place, right? So Texas and OU to the SEC, UCLA and USC to the Big Ten. Then we get the announcement of Colorado, Arizona, Arizona State, and Utah moving to the Big 12. Oregon and Washington are going to go to the Big 10. And now all of a sudden, the Pac-12 goes to being like the Pac-6. Then we get Cal, Stanford, and SMU heading to the ACC, which means it's probably going to be a little bit of a brand change. The Atlantic Coast Conference in Texas and California doesn't seem to match that way. What are you thinking about these moves? Because I've got some really good opinions on this stuff.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like, again, it's the time, the sign of the times. And I mean, I would have never thought that the Pac-12 would have been dismantled like that. And it really shocked me to see all these teams go to these other conferences. But again, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, shock you, but doesn't surprise me in the respect that you're going to go where the money is. You're going to go where there's more lucrative opportunities. And they feel that there weren't as many opportunities in that particular conference, despite it formerly being a Power 5 conference. I mean, so really nothing that's occurred in college football lately within the last 5 or so years puts me at like a, disbelief anymore, just because of the fact that it's like, you're either in this great conference or you're not, you're left behind. And that has to do with, again, TV royalties. And of course, as you noted, the markets, the times of the games that occurred. I mean, look, if you don't have people watching your games, and that's not going to translate to money and to shekels. And that's the big problem ultimately for me.
It's interesting to see that UCL or that Cal and Stanford would go to the ACC. Obviously, that means the Big Ten didn't want them, right? If they were willing to move, that means the Big Ten didn't want them. So now we're just going to go to a conference that kind of wants us. Right now we're just seeing everyone jump off the ship, try to save as much as they can. I'm interested to see how they would fit in with the ACC. I think the travel schedule is going to be something that really kind of rocks that conference for a little while.
It's crazy.
The one thing that I would say that's super interesting to me is that Stanford and Cal are taking a deferred payment and a portion of the payment from the ACC TV rights deals, right? We all know how these rights deals run everything here. SMU is not taking any money from these TV rights deals for 8 years. They're just hoping that their boosters, and we know they've got some boosters with some money at SMU,
money in Dallas, yeah,
are going to be willing to, kind of front some stuff, pay a little bit forward, do everything that they've got to do. It's really advantageous of the ACC to do this because now you have media markets in San Francisco and in Dallas.
Yep.
You've gotten football in Texas and California to go along with, the southern portion of all of the ACC of what they cover, and it's just super awesome to see that expansion for it. I just don't know how it sustains.
Well, again, it deals with the market. I mean, if
but that's
a big
the thing
enough market,
like the Pac-12. I mean, you look at the markets they had LA, they had San Francisco, they've had Seattle, they've had everything basically on the West Coast, all these major cities that are there, and yet for whatever reason, no one watched their damn games because of the time that started.
The time has to do with that a lot.
So what's going to happen whenever you have Clemson in California, in San Francisco, in that area playing against Cal at 10 o'clock at night on the East Coast? No one's going to watch that damn game.
Yeah, that game in particular. I mean,
yeah.
But they're going to have to figure out a way, wouldn't you think, then to alter the times to where people are going to watch those games.
Yeah, but I mean, what does that do for fan bases and things like that? Obviously, we're getting way too deep in the woods and all this stuff, but I'm just trying to look at logistically how all this happens. That travel schedule is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of travel that you see in football in general. I mean, teams are constantly going across the country, and even in the NFL, going across the pond.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's part of the game. It's the name of the game. I mean,
what's going to happen to their schooling, though, Brandon?
Well, they don't need to worry about that. I mean, they'll just get past. You know the situation. Of, somebody hooking them up, whatever. What's going to
Wait, that's something that happens?
No, not really.
Wow.
Not at mid-majors.
I would have never thought of that.
They're not pulling shticks or anything like that. They're schooling. Are you kidding?
At about
These
5
guys are never in schools anyway. Sorry, go ahead.
At about 5 minutes here on Fire and Ice, we're going to be joined by Yahoo Sports host Jason Fitz, formerly of ESPN, going to join us to talk a little bit about the NFL and the stuff that he's got going on as well. Just announced that he's going to be working over there with Yahoo Sports. That's super awesome to see the stuff that he's doing. Also, like the love that I got whenever I put that out on Instagram from people being like, "Oh my god, like I love watching all this stuff." I'm like, "You guys didn't realize that's my friend? How much?
That's your buddy.
How much do they pay attention to me?"
Yeah, well, because
Jesus.
you know a lot of people. It's not what you know; it's who you know.
I also
That's
know
why.
literally nothing. So
yes, I agree, 100%. It's funny how I always agree with you and you talk down to yourself.
I know. Look at this guy. Okay, so let's look at all that. We've now lost a Power 5 school. We have a Power 4 or Power 5 conference. We have a Power 4 conference right now. Whenever you look at the SEC, whenever you look at the Big Ten, and whenever you look at the Big 12, the ACC seems to be the one that's kind of falling behind now.
Yes. Yeah. No more doubt. And that's the thing is that, for me, it's like what conference is going to be the next casualty? I mean,
because it's going to have to happen, right?
Well, I mean,
because
it's becoming.
We can't sustain 16 teams in each conference.
No, it's too many. It's too many. So one of two things are going to happen. Either they're going to dismantle another conference and they're going to go to the other big ones, or I mean, in the end, I think eventually you're just going to see maybe 3 significant conferences, and that's obviously the Big 10, the Big 12, SEC. And, what's going to happen to the ACC? We've already seen it happen to the Pac-12. I think the ACC logically would be the next one to have people leave because of the track record. And, I mean, the ACC, albeit is a big conference, it's not the SEC.
No.
It's not the Big 12. It's not the Big 10. The big boys, if you're a significant team and if you're making a lot of money and if you're one of the big boys and, every year contending for the playoff or whatever, you're going to be in those 3 conferences I just noted.
What do we think about the possibility of maybe regulation in
There's no regulation.
those big conferences, right? Because
I'll give you 10 million reasons why. Regulation.
But what I'm talking about is if you look at the SEC and you say, okay, we can get rid of Vandy and bring in someone else. Once again, you think about all that stuff,
like
right?
a fart in the wind.
Yeah, because no one cares about Vanderbilt. It's the same thing with like Rutgers. Who cares about Rutgers?
Rutgers. I mean, that's There's certain teams that are going to be gone, unfortunately, and they have no say in it. And they were just fortunate maybe to be in that conference because they were getting the acclimates of being in that conference, getting all the money from all the bowl games and the NCAA tournaments or whatever. But in the end.
But would they be gone, though? Because if you're looking at, and I'm not going to say SMU's a powerhouse, but they've got some history, man. They've been a school that's been.
Who would have thought
that's
after
mattered.
the death penalty that they would have ever come back like this?
But to see them say, we're not going to take any money from the TV deal for the better part of a decade. Because we know our boosters are going to pay because that's what they did with Eric Dickerson. That's what got us the death penalty. Right. And now we have these deep pockets that we can get in with NIL. How many of these other schools are going to go after that model that SMU did right now where they said, look, we got a bunch of boosters that can pay these people?
I think we all know it starts with the boosters and the friends of the program. They're going to be the ones that make all the difference. They always are. That's the way these programs figure out a way to sink or swim.
Sounds like The Blind Side.
Great movie, by the way.
I've never seen that movie.
What's new? What's new? You've never seen most movies.
Never mind.
I don't think you guys have seen most movies.
I've seen a lot more movies than you have.
Oh, no, that's not the
Especially
point.
Good ones.
Good ones. This guy, every movie you see is a good movie.
Not true.
What's the worst movie you've seen recently?
Ooh, recently. That's a great question. I'd have to think about that.
I want you to think about that, too. I think David's going to go with Cocaine Bear because I was the one that...
Bingo.
He's shaking his head. He regrets that.
I misread all of every possible social cue I could think of taking a date to that movie. And at first I thought it was a great idea because, wow, Elizabeth Banks wrote, produced, directed it. She didn't star in it. Maybe I should have taken that into consideration.
That movie was like a horror movie. That's the funny thing about it. He's like, come on, honey, let's go see this disgusting, terrible horror movie with a bear.
And I thought that because I thought I was being progressive by suggesting a film that a woman had all of those credits in.
So much for that.
Bingo.
I like Banks, though. She's a good actress. She's cool.
There you go.
But I don't know about that movie. That movie was weird.
Yeah.
Has that given you enough time? Have we stalled enough for you to think about a terrible movie that you've seen? Because we were talking about this before, Destiny and I. We were like, Men Who Stare at Goats. That was a pretty terrible movie.
Yeah.
I can't remember anything about that movie other than the fact that it was just a hot, steaming pile of dog shit.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm not going to say it was terrible, but I didn't really like it that much. It was Blue Beetle. It was okay. I mean, a lot of people said, oh, it's good. It wasn't really that good. To me, it was kind of like a ripoff of almost like Iron Man, but it wasn't that original, and I don't know. I mean, it was, kind of clever, but it wasn't nearly as good as I thought it was going to be. That vampire flick wasn't that good either.
Are we done with like superhero movies? Can we be done with them, please?
I hope so, because there's just like every friggin', everybody's got to have a superhero movie today, and they're just like, it's nothing original. It's like we've seen everything, and most of them suck. You know what I mean?
Jericho asked us the other day too. He's like, "How do they keep making like Godzilla and King Kong movies when it's the exact same thing over and over?" He's 11,
yeah,
and he came up with that. He was like, "Why is this movie still being made?"
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, it's like that was popular 30 years ago.
Why do we always take King Kong to New York, knowing what he's going to do?
Yeah, eventually he's like, "What is it with this New York place? Can't we go somewhere else where there's like like trees and whatever?"
All right, Brandon. So next week, the NFL is back.
Yes.
We have suffered through all of the baseball, all of the soccer, the doldrums of what this time of year brings us. And now we are finally back with the NFL. Everything that we know and love is coming back to us.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to the most? Like, what are the storylines out there? What are the teams out there? What is it that you're looking forward to the most?
Well, I mean, for me, it's always the intrigue to see how bad or good the Cowboys are going to be, how Dak's going to perform. I mean, is he going to be Dak? How good is their defense going to be? I think their defense could be better. I think one story is, how is Zeke going to do in New England? I mean, is he going to be the force on the goal line? I think he could be a sleeper in fantasy. I'm really curious to see this year if indeed Jackson has his year. They're all talking about in Baltimore, where he has that potential to be top 2 fantasy quarterback because of all the additional weapons that he has, like now Beckham and whatnot. I also really think it's going to be cool to see, Joe Burrow. Could he be the number 1 fantasy quarterback? I had my fantasy draft last week, and I decided to go all in on Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, I'm hoping, I think he could be the number 1 fantasy quarterback. I mean, this is truly the era of the quarterback. I mean, if you want to be a good fantasy team, to me, it starts with having and acquiring that great quarterback going in early. Also, another storyline, Buffalo. Are they finally going to be able to get over the hump? Are they finally going to, because they've been underachievers for years, in my opinion, with the likes of a great quarterback like Allen. Is Miami going to be improved from last year with Tua another year under his belt? I certainly think the Eagles, it has a very intriguing story in the respect that is their defense going to be even better. How is Swift going to do? Is he going to be the commanding lead back in Philadelphia? Kansas City, are they going to continue to dominate and have their reign? And of course, Mahomes is Mahomes. I think there's a lot of great stories. How is Green Bay going to do with Jordan Love? Is Aaron Jones going to continue to get the productivity that he had with Rodgers? And is Rodgers going to be able to lead them to the playoffs? And he certainly looked good briefly, in the preseason debut for them. I think the Jets are going to be much improved. I think Rodgers is going to fit well with New York. There's just a lot of great subpar stories, or there's a word, not subpar.
Sub stories.
Sub stories, yeah, like little stories amongst stories in the NFL, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I can't wait, man. Thursday night. How good is Detroit going to be? Is Detroit going to be? Is Detroit going to be? Yeah. I think Stafford could have a great year. I know that St. Brown is, to me, a very good wide receiver. They have and I like that it's a well coached organization. Minnesota, what are they going to do without Dalvin Cook, don't you know? Is Alexander Madison going to be able to take over? I think he's going to have a good year, Madison. I hope he does. They drafted him.
Okay,
I just went over a lot.
No, I mean, but that's the way it should be, right? Like, we have all these storylines going on with the NFL, and I'm glad that we're talking about the NFL right now as I see this handsome man joining us in the stream right now, the one and only Jason Fitz. Jason, thank you so much for joining us. I know you're with Yahoo right now. What are you going to be doing with Yahoo?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me promote this. Obviously, wildly excited. So for Yahoo Sports, we're going to be doing a bunch of video on-demand work that I'm really excited about. So I'll be hosting a Sunday night reaction show that goes up on Yahoo in the app and on YouTube right after games end on Sunday Night Football. You can also check it out, obviously, Monday Then I'll be hosting a Wednesday show with their insiders and reporters, a Thursday show just to have a little bit of fun, and a Thursday night fantasy football show. Yahoo has the #2 fantasy football app in the world. They've done a fantasy football show. This will be the 18th year. So they're letting me take over the hosting duties, and we're moving it to 7 to 8:15 p.m. Eastern right before the Thursday night game. So we're going to be the only show trying to help you get into Thursday night football with fantasy football. So a lot of NFL work, and then across the entire landscape, like I'm working today, we're doing college football, quick videos, any reactions to what's happening in college football. So I say with humility that Yahoo is kind of making me the face of all of their football content this fall. And I couldn't be more excited. Like the people have been incredible. This opportunity has been incredible. Like it's just, I'm on cloud nine, most excited I've ever been in my career.
I'm so excited to see that Yahoo's making you the face, because if they made anyone else the face, like obviously they're not nearly as good looking as you. So it has to be you. The one downside that I would say about you, the one downside, Jason, is that you're a Raiders fan.
Oh boy.
So convince me as to why I should put some stock in the Raiders this year, given everything that we know about them, given the fact that they're in the same division with a god named Patrick Mahomes. Why should I say maybe the Raiders have a shot?
You shouldn't. They don't. But here's the thing. Like I've come to grips with this, that the Raiders are – this was the first year of a 2-year rebuild for Vegas. So I think Vegas went in knowing, hey, you're not gonna out-quarterback Mahomes. So you're not going to out-coach Andy Reid, which now means you now have to out-roster the Chiefs, which is also impossible, and that's why I drink so much on Sundays. But how do you get closer to that, right? So I think they went into this year's draft and offseason knowing, hey, we need to get a bunch of players. And then they'll go into next year's draft and offseason saying, hey, now hopefully we need to augment 5 or 10 others. Like Jimmy G, nobody thinks is a long-term quarterback answer, but there wasn't a long-term quarterback answer they liked when they picked in the draft. So I think if you're the Raiders, you have to do what I think everybody in the AFC has to do right now. You can't sit here and say, well, I got to beat Mahomes, so I got to hope I win the lottery. You need to take the San Francisco approach. I think every team in the AFC that does not have a Mahomes or a Burrow or an Allen needs to look at the 49ers and say, if you can't get that dude, and you're not going to pick high enough to get him most likely, then you need to have a great roster top to bottom, which takes longer. It takes more patience. It takes a culture and a system. It takes a long time to do that. I think the Raiders are making steps towards that. They're a 6-7 win team this year that won't be playoff relevant, but they'll be better than people think and still nowhere near Mahomes or Justin Herbert.
Jason, I'm going to talk about a team that a lot of people here in El Paso love, obviously the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not sold on Dak Prescott yet. They brought in Trey Lance, which was a very intriguing move from San Francisco. Either one of two reasons to, for Prescott to mentor him, or maybe he's going to take over for Prescott if he continues to throw the ridiculous volume of interceptions that he did. Where do you see Prescott? What do you see him doing this year, and how good potentially could their defense be?
So I want to handle this from two different angles. We'll talk about Trey Lance in a second because I got a lot to say about that. But starting with Dak, here's the hardest part about it. Everybody keeps telling me, well, the interceptions were just last year. That's not who Dak is. Until he proves that, I think it's fair to step back and say, hey, maybe this just is who Dak is right now, right? Like you see this happen for quarterbacks. I think Dak is among the very good quarterbacks. He's not among the top 10. He's among that top of the middle third, I like to call it. So if you broke it down and you're like, hey, he's not in the Mahomes, Allen, Herbert category. He's in the best of that really good category. And you can win a Super Bowl with that dude. Like I truly believe that. The thing for Dak is that he's got pressure on him. Now, how good can that defense be? The defense can be, with San Francisco, the best in the league. Like, I think the Cowboys have a very legitimate shot at the Super Bowl this year. So, we're anointing the Eagles, who, by the way, have gone through a tremendous amount of roster turnover and lost both of their coordinators. So I think it's garbage and lazy by how many people are sitting back saying, well, the Eagles are going to run it back. No, just because Jalen Hurts looked great last year and everything clicked right for him doesn't mean it will again this year. The problem I have with the Trey Lance thing, and this is why I can't make it make sense. The only way Trey Lance is the quarterback next year for the Cowboys is if everything goes wildly off the rails and Dak has a terrible year. If Dak has a terrible year, McCarthy ain't going to be the coach next year. So now a new coach is going to have to come in and very quickly make a decision on Trey Lance because where he is in the contract based on a guy that he didn't get to be around as a coach this year at practice. So I think the Trey Lance, because of that, I think the Trey Lance move is really strange. It doesn't make a ton of sense. But I'll never fault an organization for protecting themselves if their quarterback might be in a rut, and I think that's what the Cowboys were doing. Again, I'm pro Dak. I think they can win a Super Bowl with Dak, but I think that they told you right there that they're not that certain.
So I'll give you my thoughts on the Trey Lance trade, Jason. I think that he's not going to be a quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're going to use him more in like a Taysom Hill type thing where you can, kind of manipulate him, do all that. Because I don't know if there's enough where you could say this guy's going to be a good quarterback, good enough to take over for Dak, or if Jerry Jones is ever going to have the gumption to say, we're going to rebuild. Jerry Jones will never rebuild. He wants to retool, and it will not be with a quarterback like Trey Lance. So for me, I think that he's just there to be like another option as someone that can, maybe run whenever Dak can't run because Dak doesn't want to run.
I like that concept. Is it worth putting the extra heat on Dak to do that? I think is a fair question. I mean, Dak can say it doesn't matter. The locker room doesn't care, but even when people have talked to Jimmy G in the last week, it's been, things are pretty curious. Like, I don't think we get the real sense of the psyche from anybody in front of the mic that doesn't want to say the wrong thing. I'm not sure that I personally would take that risk. This feels to me like one of those moments where Jerry looked around and said, hey, I think he's a good value. I'm adding him. You guys figure it out, which is his right as an owner, but really complicated behind the scenes as an organization. If Trey Lance never sees the field, by the way, that means things are going glorious for the Cowboys, and it's a win-win, and we won't even remember this happened by the end of the season.
Well, I think we'll remember that San Francisco gave up 3 first-round draft picks for him and was able to turn that into an immaculate 4th-round draft pick.
Oh, but what does it say? What other regime can take that hit and stick around, by the way, because they're Teflon, but what other team is so good that you can bank all of that, be that wrong at your quarterback position, and still be coming off an NFC Championship game appearance where you're a Super Bowl favorite? Like, that speaks to where we started this whole conversation about the 49ers, right? Like, there is something to, hey, if we build a great roster, then if we don't hit on quarterback, it's okay. Jimmy G can be a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. Trey Lance can be a miss, and nobody's faulting him the way they fault, for example, the Broncos for missing year in and year out at the quarterback position.
Talking from a fantasy perspective about Justin Fields, are you sold on him, maybe being like the next Lamar Jackson? And do you feel that the addition of DJ Moore is going to really show that he can air it out? And certainly if you're drafting a quarterback, are you going all in on Fields this year?
Look, I made a lot of money last year on Justin Fields. I'm not going to lie. Vegas took a long time to adjust on the over and rushing. Every single week they were wrong on the over rushing. I mean, that was the easiest bet in the world. So from a fantasy standpoint, yeah, because Justin Fields is always going to be able to tuck the ball and run, right? Like, that's going to be his given power. Much like Anthony Richardson is going to be, if he feels bad about the play, tuck it and run. He's going to be just fine. The DJ Moore part of this that you mentioned is the most interesting part, because this is truly giving him an opportunity to show who he is as a passer. And I was high on Justin Fields coming out. I think he can be a very, very good quarterback. This is a bit of a prove it year when it comes to not just relying on your instincts, let's say it that way, because athleticism saves quarterbacks so often early in their career when they don't see it and they just say, okay, hell, let's just take off, right? Like, and I don't blame them. That's the smart thing to do sometimes. Justin's going to have to prove that he can find a way to make that nuanced throw. He's also going to have to prove he's going to be patient, not use his legs as much. In the beginning of the season, I'm still going to hammer the over rushing the football because that's what he's comfortable doing. And until he shows us he's comfortable sitting in the pocket a little longer and just throwing the football, I don't have any reason to think that's going to become in his DNA now.
With the exodus of Aaron Rodgers from the Packers, who's the best team in the NFC North? Because I don't want to say it's Detroit because it just feels sacrilegious to say it's Detroit.
It's Detroit. And the funny thing is, I think Minnesota kind of told you, and this was curious to me. If you look at Minnesota's offseason, they got rid of some stars. They basically let some people walk. I think Minnesota will look back at last year's film and realize, hey, we weren't really that good. We were just that lucky. I get it. So they're doing like a quiet rebuild where they're not going to be bad enough to be terrible, but they're kind of figuring out, like the TJ Hawkinson deal. They signed a tight end to big money. Well, when do you need a big money tight end? When you've got a rookie quarterback that maybe needs that safety blanket. So I think they're telling you that they're about to move off of Kirk Cousins. I think Minnesota is realizing they're about to start this whole rebuild plan. The Bears spent a ton of money, but do we really know what any of that's going to result in, right? Jordan Love has absolutely no proof of concept on who he is as a quarterback. And yeah, I think Packers fans need to maybe send flowers to Patriots fans right now who have spent generations having a quarterback, right? The Packers have had 30 years of Hall of Fame level quarterback play. I mean, if Jordan Love is just pretty good, that's going to feel like the world is collapsing, right? So I think Green Bay's got a lot of talent. I think Matt LaFleur is going to go back to the offensive coordinator he was with the Titans, where he's going to run the ball a lot. He's going to keep these games close. He's going to rely on solid defense. Green Bay's going to look a lot different. But yeah, Detroit up and down if you were playing it on Madden, if you auto played it on Madden and let the computer do the work, there's no doubt which team is the best. It's the Lions. The question is, can the Lions not lion? And when you've done that for generations, I don't know if that just turns around. But yeah, if the Lions don't get it done, then we need to start having some real conversations about Detroit too.
Can the likes of like Cincinnati and Joe Burrow and Buffalo, Allen, and even Lamar Jackson in Baltimore actually really compete with KC this year?
Buffalo can't. I am so high on Buffalo. I think this is where everybody's got it wrong. What we are doing with the Bills is we are taking their playoff failure and we're turning that into a reason they won't be successful this year. If you look at last year, they went through a catastrophic event as a team. They obviously didn't play 17 games. They played 16. They had a new offensive coordinator that, for whatever reason, Josh Allen regressed. He made some stupid throws in the red zone, had the worst year we've seen since his beginning, right? Like, Josh Allen was not the Josh Allen we're used to seeing. And they had significant injuries on the defensive side of the ball. After I tell you all of that, I also want to remind everybody they went 13-3 last year. 13-3. And if they win that game that didn't end up finalizing, they would have had home field advantage. Patrick Mahomes has never had to play a true road game in the playoffs. If I'm the Bills, I'm just saying, man, the football gods have not been kind to us, but the entire process is right. It is good. I think Buffalo is in a great situation to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. And as long as Burrow can stay healthy, I don't want to put this on any athlete, but at what point are we going to start to say the words injury prone with Joe Burrow? Every year there is an injury issue of some sort. I don't think it will be a hindrance for him in the season, but he's got to be healthy for the Bengals to even have a chance. So the Bengals will be great because they have Burrow, but man, the Bills are the team that I'm looking over here tipping the cap saying all they got to do is not get in their own way in the playoffs and they'll be just fine.
In that same voice, is it just a 2 or 3 team race in the NFC? Because it seems like it's either Philadelphia, San Francisco, and then the very few people who are brave enough to say the Dallas Cowboys, not myself, but the very few people that will say it. Is that all it is in the NFC? It's just a 3-team race?
Yeah, I mean, there's just not a lot of great there. And I don't know what to expect from Brock Purdy. Like, I was so wrong. You can't make a heaping helping of crow big enough for me to eat on Brock Purdy. He was great. I'll give him all of his flowers. I'm still in that. Can I see it again? It just doesn't make sense. So I'm still in that. Can I see it again spot? But that being said, San Francisco is just so good top to bottom, like we've mentioned, and their roster is so talented. I love San Francisco. I think Dallas is in that conversation as well. I think Philadelphia is probably in that conversation, but I think Philly takes a step back this year. What's interesting to me is that we really don't know. Are the Giants good or are the Giants just okay? I tend to think that they're just okay. If Sam Howell is actually any good, and, I talked to somebody that knew his coaching in college when he came out, and he said that Mac Brown's offensive system for Sam Howell at North Carolina, what he was being taught was a basic principle called find green grass. So they weren't actually teaching him route concepts. They were just saying, figure out where the green grass is, throw to it. That's the way they coach offense. That I say that because I think when Howell came into the NFL, his learning curve to learn a playbook was unpredictable. So the fact that he does look good right now, that means something. It means maybe he's absorbing that playbook faster than a lot of us thought he could. So if Howell's any good, man, they got the weapons, they got the defense. Washington looks pretty good. I would not be at all surprised to see the Super Bowl representative of the NFC come out of the NFC East, whether it's Dallas, Philly, or the really shot in the dark would be Washington somehow doing a minor miracle when Daniel Snyder is no longer with the team.
Just the fact that you said Washington as a Super Bowl contender hurts me and our friendship. I don't know if this is going to be something we can ever recover from.
Well, I said it's a really outside chance. Really, if I was betting your house, because I ain't betting mine. If I was betting,
there's a chance.
Yeah, if I'm betting your house, I'm betting your house on the Cowboys way before I'm betting your house on. I want all the. Yeah, I'm betting my house. Let's go. That's a problem. I'll bet your house all day.
That's great. I love it. Okay, I'm gonna ask you, Fitz, what's the deal here? Who's your Super Bowl teams right now?
I'm going to stick with, I want to say Buffalo, but I also know it's stupid to ever go against Kansas City. But I'll say the Bills. I am high enough on the Bills. I will say that in Vegas, we are seeing the Bills take on the 49ers. And I think the Bills win the Super Bowl. That's my prediction as we stand now. Bills beat the 49ers in the Super Bowl in Vegas, where, by the way, I'll be all week for Yahoo Sports. So I'll be there. I like that shameless plug getting in there again. We'll be at the Super Bowl. They've already told me that. So I'll be in the building for that one. So if the Raiders would like to take on the Cowboys, then the drinks are on me, boys.
Hey, there we go.
I like it.
Go.
I like it.
So, okay. We've already had the shameless plug. Tell us one more time, because I'm not sure I remember. What is it that you're going to be doing with Yahoo Sports now?
Look, you can, if you follow me on Twitter at Jason Fitz, you can also follow Yahoo, of course, at Yahoo Sports. Go download the Yahoo Sports app. You'll find all sorts of content there. We're doing quick hit videos. We're doing live streams. We're doing everything you could ever want. We'll have shows for you on the NFL on Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. We got you covered. Really proud of the work we're going to be doing there. Hope everybody will come hang out with me.
I cannot wait to see all the stuff that you're going to be doing. I've already seen some of the things. Of course, you being the Raiders fan, your first hit for Yahoo Sports had to be something you did with the Raiders. So it was awesome to see like all the little things you're doing there. I can't wait to see what comes up next. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us here. And hopefully you get to watch UTEP football today. I hope you get the picks up and everything. You get to
Let's
see them
go.
take on Incarnate Word. Yeah.
Yeah, let's go. Looks like you guys have a better environment than I do. My basement doesn't have as many drinks as where you are. So you guys have one for me after your show.
We like this
Well,
place,
we've got 100 beers to choose from, so trust me, I'll have one for you.
Perfect. Let me know which one it is. I appreciate you, boys.
Thank you,
See you
Jason.
later, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks.
I like the friends you make.
Oh yeah, no, he's
He's a cool dude. He's funny too, like you.
Yeah, he's a great dude, and that's the cool thing about him is whenever he was at ESPN, Brandon, he did so much for them. He was on their Snapchat for SportsCenter. He was hosting all kinds of things that ESPN was just like so lucky to have him for.
Yeah.
The thing that we forgot to mention with him, he's a 16-time Grammy-nominated artist. He's won multiple Grammy Awards. Like the dude is just one of the most talented people in the world, and I can't believe ESPN let him go.
Yeah, that's sad. And as you know, he was talking about that recently, and I think it was shocking. It's shocking to see a lot of the talent they've let go, but we're happy to have him on. And Fire and Ice, just another amazing guest that we can add to the list. And it was an honor to have him on. He's a great guy.
I'm working on something that I think you're going to love, so I'll talk about that. Obviously, you know me, I don't say things until it happens.
No,
but I'm working on something that I think you would love as well, Brandon, and the people out there as well. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I especially want to thank our friends over here at Union Drafthouse, 12040 Tierra Este in the far east side of El Paso. We're going to be bouncing around to all the different Union Drafthouses. There are 5 different locations you can go to. Next weekend, they're going to have a UFC match. Do you know which one it is? Because you know me, I don't watch the UFC.
Stylebenders fighting again. UFC, let's see, September 9th. That's going to be a good one, you know? It's going to be phenomenal. Do you know who the last Stylebender is?
I have no idea.
He's a great fighter. He moved up in weight and lost.
Do you know who he is? Because I feel like you're stalling for his name.
No, I'm not. His name's Stylebender, for crying out loud, you know? I'm going to give you the schedule. You want to hear?
Yes.
Okay.
Let's
give you the schedule.
First, what UFC or MMA is it? UFC
Israel Alessandra, a.k.a. Stylebender. Okay, that's what they call him. Many UFC fans know who he is. Sean Strickland. And the co-main is going to be Tervisa against Volkov. It's going to be a hell of a fight. 2 great fights on that card. I'm excited to see Stylebender fight again.
They'll have that match here, all the UFC events here at Union Drafthouse. So come on out, check them out at all 5 of their different locations. Also, they got their Cowboys promotions as well. I believe that's $3.50 pints on Miller Lite during the Dallas Cowboys game. So you might as well come on out here with your friends. Watch the Dallas Cowboys either win or lose, but definitely disappoint all their fans because that's what they do. The conveyor belt of sadness known as the Dallas Cowboys. I feel just mean right now, but it's the way that it is. I have no delusions on things. Fitz saying, I feel like him saying that the Cowboys had a chance was just him placating to me.
He's messing with you, dude.
Yeah.
He knows better. He's no schmuck.
What a jerk that guy is.
Come on now. He knows better.
I think he put Washington in that same category.
Come on now. Yeah,
lost all his credibility with us.
I used to like him, but oh well. He's a friend of yours, so I guess I kind of like him. Anyways.
Once again, so come on out here, Union Drafthouse, 12040 Tierra Este on the east side of El Paso. We'll be bouncing around all the new ones. I don't know what the next one is that we're going to do, but we will have a show next week, and we'll put out all the information on social so that you guys can know that. Brandon, any parting words you want to say, any kind things you want to say, anything you want to say about UTEP?
Well, I hope they win. That's for damn sure. If not, then they're starting out 0-4.
There's
Have
kind of
fun tonight.
there's
at
kind of a
Sun Bowl.
part of me that really wants UTEP to lose.
Yeah, me too.
Like just because it
We're
creates
such
so much
jerks.
more.
We're such jerks.
David runs over here. I think he's going to be the lone person to defend UTEP.
Or as John Teicher would say, come on out to the Sun Bowl to see hell freezing over once again.
They'll announce 40,000, but 10 will be in the stands.
Not 10,000, 10 total. 10 total
When the peanut
fans.
vendors outnumber the fans. Gotta love it.
They'll
Sorry. Terrible. Stop it. Would you? You're getting me on
No,
another
like
track.
I really.
It's true, though.
Yeah.
They always announce a huge crowd, but there's nobody there. It's funny.
We've seen these in person, too.
Yeah.
It'll be like the announced attendance is 44,600.
But yet there may be 10 in the stands,
And
and that
just
means 10 people, like you said.
Me and Brandon with 5 hot dogs.
Each.
That's the entire thing. All right, hopefully UTEP wins. We'll be doing a Bob Jim Pat getting drunk on the internet a little bit later on today for the premium live event with the WWE Payback. So look out for that coming up on the network as well. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Brandon, can't wait for you to give me a couple of beers.
Likewise. I'm doing it right